Hi everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's me, the ecologist, and today we're going to be talking about the weird or unusual iceberg chart. This chart was found on Reddit, and I actually didn't make a note of who came up with the chart at the time, and when I went back to look for it today I actually couldn't find the post, so sorry about that. And you know, if you came up with this, get in touch and I'll give you a shout out. But anyway, let's get into it. So the iceberg is broken up into 6 different categories, and as you go further down into categories, the animals are more unheard of or unusual for various reasons. So for this video we're just going to look at the first 13 animals, unlucky for some, on this chart, and we're going to have a look at their ecology and a brief description about them. So for this video it's just going to be part 1 of tier 1. As I was making the video, it turned out that there was actually it was too time consuming, and you know, you don't want to be watching the same video over and over again forever. So yeah, I'll just try to keep it short and snappy and just give a brief summary about some of the animals. Now some of the animals are, you know, they're more well known than others. You know, you have like giraffes and rhinos and hippopotamus, so I didn't go too much into their actual features, but you know, I kept it short and brief and just covered them because they're on the iceberg essentially. The Proboscis monkey is one of the largest Asian monkeys, and they mainly live in mangrove forests in Borneo. These monkeys can live in groups of between 9 and 19 with one male leader, although all male groups can also be found. The Proboscis monkey mainly eats fruit and seeds, and occasionally it might eat insects. Sexual dimorphism, which I will be making a video on as it's so common everywhere. So sexual dimorphism is common. Sexual dimorphism is shown in these species, with the males weighing usually double the weight of the females, and the males also being taller. The reason they're called the Proboscis monkey, as you can probably see here, they have a massive nose, which is called the proboscis in this case, and this proboscis is actually sexually selected. So what this means is basically females will probably be more favoured to mate with a male who has a bigger proboscis, and you know, as evolution and this happens over and over and over again, it's more beneficial for males to have a bigger proboscis in order to mate with the female. Sloths are a Central and South American animal that are known for being lazy and for being said the sloth in Ice Age. Sloths spend most of the time hanging in trees, lazing about, and they spend very little energy, so they need very little food. Sloths have actually a symbiotic relationship with the green algae that grows on their fur. So this algae provides protection, or provides camouflage for the sloths, as the green algae will blend in with the, you know, canopy of the trees, making them hard to see, and the sloths will actually eat the green algae then, which actually provides them enough nutrition and energy to live their very lethargic life. One of the interesting things about sloths is that they're most threatened by predators when they actually defecate. As they defecate, they have to come down from the trees to defecate, and this is when most predators will target a sloth. So no one wants to be killed while pooping, but that's kind of how sloths meet their outcome, unfortunately. Giant anteaters, who I briefly mentioned in sloths, live to about 14 years old and are about the same size of a large dog. Now giant anteaters rightly get their name as they mainly eat ants and termites. So giant anteaters eat approximately 35,000 ants a day, and they do this by using their claws to open up anthills. Then they stick in their snout and they have sticky saliva, and they'll essentially just like eat up everything. What is interesting though is that an anteater will never fully destroy a colony, and prefers to, you know, come back at a later date and carry out the destruction all over again. An anteater's tongue moves at about 150 flicks per minute, which is quite fast, and you know, I couldn't do it. And they don't actually have teeth, anteaters, so they swallow everything whole. Like every ant just gets swallowed up, and its stomach does the digesting on that. And they have very poor eyesight, so instead they have to smell out ant colonies locations, and it is estimated that an anteater will have a smell of about 40 times greater than the average human. Mandrels are shy and reclusive primates that live in equatorial Africa. These primates are known for their colourful faces and rumps. So as you can see, they usually have like red and blue faces, and these colours are actually enhanced when they get excited. Mandrels also have very large canine teeth, which would be dangerous, but they're never used as a, you know, an attacking instrument, but mostly they're used for self-defense, and in general actually they're just used for, you know, greeting other mandrels. So you just imagine like these mandrels with their big massive canine teeth just smiling away at each other basically, which is, you know, it's a nice image to have in your head. Mandrels use their extremely long arms to forage for food. This mainly includes like insects, amphibians, reptiles, and they also have food pouches in their mouth, like the platypus, I guess. And you know, they can store the food in the mouth without digesting it then and there. Troops of mandrels usually consist of one male and 12 or more females. So you know, he's a lucky guy. Galeda, or the bleeding heart monkeys, are, you know, they're interesting obviously because they're on this iceberg list, but they're the last of the grass grazing primate species. So they're mainly confined to the seminal or semen, the semen Mountains National Park, and they are a female-led group, but they're non-territorial. And what is interesting is that their bleeding heart, which essentially is like a red patch in their chest, becomes enhanced in females during mating season. And while I haven't actually found this out, I presume that females with the brighter hearts would be more attractive to the males, but I haven't looked that up. That's just conjecture. Yeah, and that's pretty much like, you know, they're grass grazing species, so they're mainly grasses, sedges, you know, seeds of grasses and that sort of thing. And this is not, that's kind of my summary of it, of Galeta. What is interesting though is when I was looking up images to use for this video, there was only one image of a Galeta in the public domain, which obviously I've included. And yeah, I just thought it was interesting that, you know, why was there only one image when obviously, you know, these are quite iconic species, you know, and you'd be thinking that throughout, you know, even BBC's work with David Attenborough and all that, that surely there'd be more images in the public domain, but I could only find the one, and I just thought that was also interesting. The giant sloth is our first extinct species. I mean, preferably if I was making this iceberg, I wouldn't have included extinct species in this. I would like to have done that as a different video, but maybe in the future we can do like weird extinct species and things like that, because I've given talks about extinct animal species during my time in college, so could be good to open up those notes and things again. But anyway, giant sloths. They went extinct about 10,000 years ago, and these guys were massive. Giant sloths, they were probably about the size of an elephant, if not bigger, and probably weighed like the same. And they do differ from modern sloths in the sloths in the fact that they would have reached into the tree canopy. You know, you're the size of an elephant, and they are slow, but they would have reached into the tree canopy to see the leaves, and they would have been able to go up on their hind legs to get these leaves and tree twigs and all that. But it's also suggested that giant sloths were opportunistic carnivores, so I guess any other species that was big enough and slow enough that a sloth could catch up on, the sloth would have been more than capable of eating them. So yeah, they went extinct in the early Pliocene, so about 10,000 years ago. And you know, the reason they went extinct: habitat loss and hunting by humans. The Highland cow, in that it is, you know, a unique animal species, but, well, I mean, it's a breed really, it's not a species. So why it's on the list again is, you know, questionable. But anyway, the Highland cow have massive horns, and they've thick woolly coats, and in fact they actually have a double coat. So males of the species weigh about 800 kg and female will weigh about 500 kg. They're a very hardy breed. They live in the Scottish Highlands, and they're mainly bred nowadays for their beef, and notably their beef is lower in cholesterol. Highland cows are mainly bred for their beef, which is lower in cholesterol than other cow breeds, and yeah, they've been notably around since the 6th century, which is quite a long time really. But you know, I guess our ancestors were really looking into that cholesterol levels. Highland cow calves are also really cute, as you can see. Like, that photo just melts your heart really, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean, other than the fact that they're a cow species, are a cow breed, they're a very hardy breed, and they live in the Scottish Highlands, and they have woolly coats, long horns and double coats. They're just a breed of cattle, really. Speaking of hairy animals, the next one you wouldn't expect. We have the Sumatran rhinoceros. Now, Sumatran rhinoceroses are the smallest rhino in the world, but they do have a bit of hair, as opposed to most other rhinoceroses, which are notable for their lack of hair, I guess. But yeah, so Sumatran rhinoceroses are closely related to the extinct woolly rhinoceros, and they've kept some of their hair, as you can see in this photo. What is interesting and very sad is that the Sumatran rhino competes with the Javan rhino for being the most threatened species of rhinoceros in the world, which, you know, well done us. But even though the Sumatran rhino has more numbers, it is thought to be that it's actually more threatened due to, you guessed it, habitat loss and fragmentation. And sadly, in the last 15 years, only 2 captive Sumatran rhinos have given birth, as opposed to actual wild numbers. There's hope in the future, but I mean, like a lot of other animals, us humans need to drastically change our ways, which is a sad prospect really. Oh boy, the Tasmanian tiger is an animal, or was an animal? That is the question. The Tasmanian tiger looked like a mix between a wolf, a fox, and a cat, I guess. And it had yellow-brown fur, long claws, and sharp teeth, as would any animal that's a mix between a wolf, fox, and a cat, really. Now, what is interesting about this animal is that it went extinct in 1936. I was right. 1936, in captivity, because essentially the Australians didn't care about it enough to look after it. Questionable. But what is interesting is that, you know, there's been reports of it being seen in the wild ever since it went extinct. You know, with like every few years, it's like, bam, I've spotted, you know, bam, Mrs. Doris O'Shaughnessy sees extinct animal in the wild. And, you know, UFOs and other things get seen in the wild. But what brings some credibility about the Tasmanian tiger is that in 2019 the Australian government released documents where it actually has listed 8 authentic sightings of the Tasmanian tiger. So while it is still officially extinct, it may exist in the wild, and that is very cool. Like, this extinct animal, which has been extinct mainly down to human error, and also there was this big massive is it a disease or a virus that affected them? I can't remember off the top of my head, but they essentially, like, this animal, this species were affected by a massive disease outbreak, which I think a lot of them have to be put down because of it, and then the remaining one just couldn't breed, and yeah. But it is neat that this extinct animal may not actually be extinct, and that it's just living out there like so many other animals that we may not know about. So that's kind of cool. I should say actually that these Australian documents that were released in 2019, they've actually listed 8 authentic sightings between 2015 and 2019. So like in a 4-year period they have 8 sightings, so you know you're averaging like 2 sightings of this extinct animal in 4 years, or 2 sightings a year, which, you know, if you see a bird 8 times in 4 years and you know it's not extinct, you're like, yeah, this bird is low in numbers, it's here, but I guess technically it's extinct still, even though it may not be. It's an unusual one, and it's one of those that I will definitely be doing a video on, just going into it, because, you know, this iceberg is very brief, and I don't want to be spending too much time. Like, I've already spent way too much time on this. Porcupines are small rodents that have quills or spikes. These quills become erect when the animal is threatened, and they usually get lodged in the skin of the animal that's attacking them. You know, unfortunately for the animal that attacks the porcupine, these quills are barbed, so when they enter into the skin, it causes a lot of damage to take it out, which is painful, I'd imagine. And some of the images I've seen of animals with porcupines who have interactions with porcupines are not pretty at all. Baby porcupines are born with soft quills, and these harden in about 2 months. American porcupines have prehensile tails, which makes them good climbers, and because of this they mainly eat like wood and stems and leaves. Whereas African porcupine species mainly live in like deserts and savanna biomes, and they don't have prehensile tails, so they don't climb as much. Okapi, also known as the forest giraffe, are the giraffe's only living relatives, and they're only found in the Ituri forests, rainforests, I guess, of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and they're interesting animals. They have scent markers, or scent glands, sorry, on their hooves, so it provides a good territory marking system for that. Their calves, as in their young, can walk within 30 minutes of being born, and the calves also don't defecate until after a month they've been born. So this means, you know, predators can track the young as well, You can't just find them. So then, yeah, they do kind of look between like a horse, a zebra cross, but they also have long necks, which gives them which is down to the relationship with the giraffes that they have. And the zebra patterning, or like the zebra patterning on their hindquarters, helps them blend in to the sun, and because they're very dark, or help them blend into the rainforest, sorry, because they're very dark, and the zebra crossing on them is kind of, it provides similar, so that they're not just standing out in the darkness. But when the sunlight breaks through the canopy of the trees, it's similar to that. You can see it better. I've explained that terribly. So yeah, the Okapi's main predators would be leopards. However, in like the last 20 years, their population have halved due to humans. In 2012, a militia group killed 14 okapis in the Okapi National Conservation Park, because civil unrest makes environmental laws very hard to be upheld. So humans. So we've had forest giraffes, but now let's talk about the real giraffe. So giraffes are very long-necked boys, and the picture I've included here is of the Rothschild giraffe, which are found in my local wildlife park, which I've actually had the privilege of working there for a few weeks. So I've actually had interactions with these guys, and they're pretty cool. So yeah, giraffes, they're obviously the tallest mammals on Earth. Their legs are like 6 foot, which alone is taller than me. The thousands and thousands of pounds of leaves a week. Giraffes can be up to 19 foot high and weigh between 1 and 1.5 tons. Giraffes can run about 35 miles per hour over a short distance to evade predators, etc. But they can travel at 10 miles per hour over great distances, and big boys pretty much. Giraffes also usually roam the grasslands in groups of about 6 or 7, usually not very big groups. So platypus are a very unusual animal. They have a duck's bill, a beaver's tail, otter's legs, and they also lay eggs, which mammals don't do, but platypus do. So that's something. Platypuses are native to eastern Australia and Tasmania, and they're carnivores and red listed. But what's interesting is carnivores, they're bottom feeders as well. So what they'll do is they'll swim into the river and they'll go down to the bottom, and they will pick up everything, pretty much sediment, gravel, dirt, and they will store it in their mouth. They have like special food storage pouches, and they will eat this on surface. They don't eat underwater. And yeah, I mean, I could talk all day about platypus, but it is interesting that when they were first discovered in, it's 1789 or 1799, they sent a specimen back to England from Australia, and they just thought it was a hoax animal, and the biologists couldn't believe this animal existed, as they just thought it was loads of other animals sewn together as a practical joke, basically. So that brings us to the end of part 1 of tier 1 for our unusual iceberg chart. Hopefully this was a nice video for you to watch, and I hope to bring you part 2 very soon. Alright guys, I'll catch you out there.